Good day everyone. I am Abdulnaim Dura. I will discuss the structure of assemblies, highlight their different characteristics, the distinction between unicameralism and bicameralism, and the role of committee system in legislative body. Understanding this element is crucial to appreciate how a government around the world function. So, the first one is the general features of assemblies. Assemblies or parliament have differences based on how members are chosen, the size of assembly, the electoral system. So how members are chosen? A member can be elected by the people like in the Philippines Congress or appointed by the leader as in the Canadian State Senate, some assembly and also some assemblies use a mix of both. For the size of assembly, smaller countries have a smaller assemblies. For example, is Nauru, a specific island nation, has only 18 members, each representing about 500 people. For larger countries like China have a huge assemblies. Its National People's Congress has almost 3,000 members with one representative for every 465,000 peoples. For the electoral systems, in some countries like the Philippines, members of House of Representatives are elected based on population, while party list representatives are chosen through proportional representations. The main structural differences in assemblies is whether they have one chamber or two chamber. This is what we call unicameralism and bicameralism. So, what is unicameralism? Unicameralism assembly has only one chamber or house. So, what is unicameralism? A unicameralism assembly has just one chamber. This means all lawmakers meet and vote in a single body. How it works? A proposed law called a bill is introduced and debated in a single chamber. If the majority approves it, the bill becomes a law. Since there's only one chamber, decision making is faster because there's no second house to review or delay the process. An example of this is the Denmark abolishes its upper house in 1953, creating a single chamber a simpler governance. Also in the Bangsamoro Parliament in the Philippines also uses a unicameral system to streamline decision for autonomous. The unicameralism has a faster lawmaking due to a fewer steps, works well in a smaller countries or regions with a less diversity. And for uh, the bicameralism assembly has two chambers, an upper house and a lower house. Each plays a role in lawmaking. How it works? A bill is introduced in one chamber, often the lower house. If the lower house passes the bill, it goes to the upper house for review. The upper house may approve, amend, or reject the bill. Once both chambers agree, the bill becomes the law. An example of this is the Philippine Congress is a bicameral. The House of Representatives represent districts and party list groups, while the Senate represent the nation as a whole. Both must approve bill before it becomes law. In the United States also, the Senate ensures equal representation for states while the House representative population size. The bicameralism provides checks and balances. If one house passes a rushed or flawed law, the other house can review it, protects regional or minority interest, and encourages through debate as laws are reviewed by two groups of lawmakers. The last one for this is the committee in assemblies. The committee in assemblies are smaller groups within assemblies that focus on specific tasks such as studying proposed laws, overseeing the government action, or investigation issues. How they work? There are three: the legislative committees, oversight committees, investigative committees. The legislative committees reviews bills in detail before presenting them to a larger assembly for a vote. For the oversight committees, they monitor the government action to ensure laws are followed properly. The investigate committees look into specific issues of public concern such as disaster or controversies. In conclusion, Assemblies are vital institutions for making laws and presenting the people. Unicameral systems are efficient and cost-effective, making them ideal for smaller or unified regions. In contrast, bicameral systems ensure checks and balances, which is why they are common in larger, diverse countries like the Philippines. Committees also are the workhorses of assemblies. Handling detailed tasks and ensuring laws and government actions serves the public well. Okay, so the next discussion is the performance of the assemblies. So I'll explain the performance of assemblies. Assemblies play a big role in how government function, but their influence on public policies varies across countries. Some assemblies are powerful decision makers, while others are limited in their impact action, more like rubber stamps for the executive branch. Let's dive into how assemblies perform and classify their rules. Okay, the first one is, do assembly make policy? Assemblies perform many tasks. There's three: passing laws, representing public opinion, and checking government action. The key questions, however, is, do assembly shape policies or do they just approve decisions made by executive? Assemblies can be classified into three types based on their level of power. Letter A is the policy-making assemblies. These assemblies direct, shape policies with significant independence and authority. They meet three important conditions. Number one, constitutional authority. They are respected and given power by the law. The number two, independence. They act freely from the executive branch. Number three, organizational strength. They work effective as a team. So for the number two, the policy influencing assemblies. This assembly can influence policy, but they mostly react to proposal from executive branch. They do not full control over public policy but can modify or delay it. Executive For the number three, the executive dominant assemblies. These assemblies have very limited influence on policy, often just approve the executive decisions. They are sometimes called rubber stamps. So that is the three types based on their level of power. Thank you for your attention, and I'm happy to answer you any questions. Thank you.
So, good day everyone. I am Ashya Tanog and I'll be reporting about the function of assemblies. So, function of assemblies had five principal function, and it is the legislation, representation, scrutiny, political recruitment, and legitimacy. So, let me explain the first one, which is the legislation. Legislation is often seen as the key function of assemblies, as it clearly implied by the common classification as legislators. Assemblies or parliaments are typically vested with legislative power in the hope that the laws that made will be seen authoritative and binding. So legislation, assemblies are responsible for making the laws, and this is their most important role. They discuss, debate, and approve new rules and policies that guide how a country or society operates. However, in some systems, they may only approve laws proposed by the government instead of creating them directly. The second one is the representation. Assemblies play an important representative role in providing a link between government and the people. So, assemblies represent the people, and members of assembly, like the parliamentarians, are elected by citizens to speak and act on their behalf. They ensure that different groups, interests, and opinions in society are heard when decisions are made. The third one is the scrutiny. Assemblies have increasingly become scrutinizing bodies, the principal rule of which is to deliver responsibility or accountability. So, assemblies check and monitor the actions of the government. They ensure that government officials and leaders are doing their job correctly and not abusing their power. These asking questions, holding debates, and sometimes launching investigations. The fourth one, the political recruitment. Assemblies often act as major channels of recruitment, providing a pool of talent from which leading decision makers emerge. So, assemblies help to find and train political leaders. Many people who work in assemblies go on to become key figures in government, such as ministers or prime ministers. This is where future leaders gain experience in lawmaking and public service. The last principal function of assembly is the legitimacy, and the final function of assemblies is to promote the legitimacy of a regime by encouraging the public to see the system of rule as rightful. So assemblies help to make the government's decisions accepted by the people. By involving elected representatives in the decision-making process, assemblies give laws and policies a sense of fairness and approval from the public. This strengthens trust in the system. And in conclusion, the importance of function assemblies, or the overall importance of function assemblies. So it helps ensure that a country is running fairly and effectively. Assemblies make laws that guide how people and government should behave, representing the voices and interests of the public. This also monitor the government's actor. This also monitor the government actions to prevent abuse of power and hold leaders accountable. By training future political leaders, assemblies prepare people who can govern in the future. Most importantly, assemblies give legitimacy to decisions by involving elected representatives, which makes people to more likely and accepted. This helps to maintain order and trust in the country. And that's all for my report. Thank you.